The White House says President Trump still expects to impose a 25% tariff on Canada and Mexico starting this Saturday. These are two of our biggest trading partners, and the increases could also have a big impact on the United States itself. Joining us now is Peck, Associate Professor at USC Gould School of Law. Thank you so much for being here this morning. Can we just dive in and talk about how these tariffs are going to work exactly?
Sure, and thank you for having me this morning. I appreciate it. Tariffs are basically taxes that are imposed on imported products that come to the United States. The key thing to note or to be aware of is that these tariffs are paid by a U.S. importer, not the foreign government or not the foreign company that exports the products to the United States. So if there is a significant increase in tariffs as proposed by the President Trump against products from China or from Canada and Mexico, those costs will likely be passed on to U.S. consumers and businesses.
Well, that's what I wanted to ask you about is, a lot of people want to see these types of tariffs happen. They voted for the president. He talked about it throughout his campaign as he was running. But can you talk about the real impact it could have on our economy?
Well, these, as you mentioned at the outset, these are two of our largest trading partners, and so the amount of imports that we bring into the United States from both Mexico and Canada could have a significant impact on consumer prices, as well as the rebuilding of Southern California, from devastating wildfires. For example, from Canada, we import oil, we import lumber, wood, cement. From Mexico, over 20% of our agricultural products that we bring into the United States, fruits and vegetables, come from Mexico. So, for example, your avocado that you make guacamole for Super Bowl could increase in price.
I better go stock up now, except they might go bad by the time we get to the 9th.
That's what some businesses are doing. In lieu of paying these taxes after they're imposed, they are stocking up.
Yeah, it's the fruits and vegetable things. But, we're talking about egg prices right now that will have a real impact at the grocery store. I do want to talk about, too, President Trump mandating the sweeping review of U.S. trade policy. Can you talk about the free trade agreement that currently exists with Mexico and Canada and what that currently does for everyone?
Well, when NAFTA was renegotiated under the first Trump administration and became the USMCA, the U.S.-Mexico-Canada Agreement, one of the provisions that the Trump administration insisted on was to have a periodic review of the agreement to see whether it can be updated and or withdrawn by the United States. That review is up for next year in 2026, but the Trump administration has announced that the process for reviewing the provisions of the agreement and, for example, tariffs that are imposed on current products from Canada and Mexico are up for the review process at this time. And so I can see the Trump administration using that review process as further leverage to get what they want from Mexico and Canada, both in terms of the agreement itself and then also other geopolitical issues such as the border issue, which is where the current tariffs are being threatened by.
Well, we even just saw over this past weekend, Colombia accepting deported migrants on a military aircraft to avoid their 25% tariff that was threatened upon them. President Trump has stated he wants more border security, as you're just talking about. So what do you think Mexico and Canada will have to do for the president to maybe delay or prevent the increase from happening?
I think at the very least to delay the imposition of the 25% tariffs is that they make public commitments to further tighten the border to stem the flow of migration and fentanyl, which is the concern of the Trump administration. And so I think to stave off the tariffs being imposed on Saturday, as you mentioned, I think as long as they make a public announcement and commitment to take steps that would accomplish those goals, I think that would at least bring about a delay to the tariffs. And then, with like the president did with Colombia, he said that the tariffs are not, eliminated, but that they are being held on reserve so that Colombia doesn't follow through in its commitments to accept deportees from the United States. Then he would impose those tariffs. I think the same mechanism will probably occur with Canada and Mexico as well.
All right. Well, we'll have to see how those countries respond in coming days. Brian, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you very much.